So have you ever been watching a kid's show and been like, something just isn't right? Something about this is actually kind of creepy. You can sense that there's some underlying tension between the characters, or there is just this trepidation throughout the entire experience that makes you realize there's something beneath the surface. And it makes you wonder, how would the character react if you constantly answered the wrong thing over and over and over? Well, if this intrigues you, then I have a game for you. It's called Amanda the Adventure, where you play as Riley, a teenage girl who is looking for your aunt, and you receive a note that is oddly vague, and you end up finding yourself locked in an attic where there's only a few things to go by, and one of them is an old school TV and VCR. When you play the VHS tapes, you find out it's an old child's program called Amanda the Adventure. Looks a lot like Dora the Explorer, but there's something else going on. Amanda is angry when you make mistakes. Amanda has some sort of hatred towards her friend Wooly, who is there to guide her along her adventure. There is a lot going on here, and trust me, there is a lot of lore. As you're watching these videos, you realize that they're a little disturbing, but you also realize that they're giving you hints. You need to be taking notes down because not only can this open up more about the characters in the story, but it can also get you out of the attic. I'm not going to ruin any more of the story for you or to tell you that Amanda the Adventure is one of those lore-based horror games that is meta and has a ton underneath the surface, but I'm sure you've already figured that out. So if you're into those type of horror games, this is a good one for you. Most of this review is actually done by my son, and I'll leave a link to his channel in the description below. And typically with most of these games, I don't mind if he plays them. Games like Five Nights at Freddy's, Bendy's, Hello Neighbor, they're all games that allude to violence and kind of disturbing things, but they don't actually ever put it out there. And it's a little bit different with Amanda the Adventure, as there are some pretty terrifying scenes in this game. We played this game on a $100 PC, and it actually looked pretty good and controlled really well. So if you've got more than a $100 Walmart PC, I'll tell you how well you can actually play this game. My son has a MacBook and I don't want Steam games on my work computer, so basically we had this like old used computer that we got and it actually played it, and it was interesting to see that it performed actually pretty well. And that's part of the thing, like, why can't they bring this to like the Switch? You know, it should easily be able to run it. And the entire game is about an hour long, but it's one of those that you want to beat over and over again to fully understand what happens and to fully experience just how creepy it gets, and a lot more about the lore. In a way, think of like an Encryption, where it looks just like a card game, but then as you play further, it becomes something else, like literally it becomes something else. It's sort of in that same light. Especially if you're like my son and you get way more caught up in Amanda the Adventure, the show, rather than the character you're playing as. Now, not to say that that doesn't have a lot to do with the main character in a way, but it does. It's just there's, again, a lot of lore. This is one of those games that you could play over and over and over again and find out more stuff every time. For $8.99 on Steam, it's a really good price, especially with controls being good, performance being good. The only thing that we really complained about was music. When the music is working and on and going, it's great. It's incredibly catchy and really fits the aesthetic of the game. But the problem is there's not a lot of it. It's only pretty much during the Amanda the Adventure parts, and then outside of that, it's like no music at all, and it leaves the game just a little bit hollow. But out of all of those things, and performance, graphics, sound, all of that, the game gets a 9 out of 10. And please bring it to the Switch. So for the next game I'm going to talk about, it's another one that they need to bring to the Switch. It is a game that I played on Game Pass called Merge and Blade. So if you've ever been playing a game like Tetris and you thought, man, I wish this was a roguelike RPG style game, well then Merge and Blade is the perfect game for you, as you're given a pair of soldiers or a pair of warriors, if you will, and they can be anything from like a monk to a blacksmith to a farmer, and you're given 10 columns essentially. Like, it's a completely blank slate and you can drop them wherever you want. The goal though is to match 3 of them together. Now with each 3 you'll then get an upgraded soldier unit. Like I believe it's 3 farmers that make a knight. And 3 knights make an archer, 3 archers make a healer, and so on and so forth. So there's this whole world of units that you can unlock, and every time you win a battle you're given money, and with this money you can upgrade other units, you can also upgrade other aspects of the game, like it can give you more turns. And what I mean by turns is you're given a set amount, I think it's five drops of a pair of units. And essentially, as long as you don't mess up, which you can mess up by dropping them all in the same column and basically get a game over screen and like Tetris, this will cause the game just to push you forward in the game. But if you don't, then you're given like 5 drops. And once that's done, then your soldiers are all pushed into a battle. You have no control over anything except for where the soldiers line up. Like, you can take your archer or your healer off of the front lines and switch them with, say, a farmer or a knight, somebody who's more equipped to fight on the front lines. Aside from that, you have very little control, and if you're able to defeat the enemy, you gain money, and you go into another screen where you get more troops. Now, this game seems simple, but it's incredibly fun, and it's just one of those, like, great, I don't know what else to play game. You know, when you're kind of just deciding what else to play or what different thing to play in between, or say you played too many RPGs and you just want something simple, this is a good game for that. Now, there is a story in the game, but to be honest, I don't know what it is. I believe that the story is something to kind of push you forward and keep you going on this campaign once the newness of the game mechanics kind of wear off. But to be honest, I never found that to happen, especially with so many optional upgrades and constantly looking to better your units or to upgrade a different path or to give yourself more unit drops. There's always something else to be focusing on that, to be honest, I sort of just skipped the story, which is incredibly unlike me, as I like to spend a lot of my time going through a game story and finding my motivation and then ridiculing the story and saying this wasn't worth it. No, I'm kidding. Most of the time, it does just give me a motivation, like, why should I care? Why should I help this village? Whatever. A lot of times, storytelling can even help you in combat. You know, there's always a reason to pay attention, but this really just kind of came out of nowhere and was a game that its mechanics were so addictive that I just wanted to keep pushing forward and just keep playing more. My biggest mistake is messing up buttons. I would forget what they did and end up dropping troops instead of, switching them around. So you do have that ability. Like I said, it's a lot like Tetris or Dr. Mario or something like that, where you can move the characters before you drop them. And, again, your whole goal is to get 3 in a row. Sometimes you'll block yourself off. Sometimes just really good characters will drop from the top and you didn't see that coming and that blocks them off. But there's just a lot to go into this game. Now, by the way, there is a counter. If you and the enemy have not killed each other in about 5 to 6 seconds, a lightning bolt will just come down and kill both of you. So, you have to make sure that you're starting off with your best soldier in the middle, able to do the most damage anyway, and to get the most support. A lot of times I like to run like a knight or a monk or, a lancer or somebody in the middle, and right behind them an archer, and right behind them a healer. But that's really difficult to set up in this game. It sounds like you just put them wherever you want to, but no, you don't. In fact, after you've set your lineup and you go to battle, the game itself randomly puts, I wouldn't say randomly, but it puts characters where it wants them. And then you have to try to adjust them on the fly while you're also trying to fight these bad guys. And as the game continues, the game gets a little bit more difficult and more difficult. It's incredibly fun and addictive and gives you incredibly cool gameplay mechanics that really just make you want to go further in the game. Performance-wise, this game performs great. It should. It's not being asked to do a lot. And music-wise, at first I didn't really like it because it was pretty retro, like almost too retro, but I ended up digging it after a little while. Ultimately, this is a great game. Merge and Blade, if you got Game Pass, you should definitely check it out. If not, well, we just keep our fingers crossed and hope that it'll come to the Nintendo Switch at some point. Anyway, those are my 2 reviews for the day. Yeah, I had to end up putting both of them together because we're running out of time. Anyway, I love each and every one of you guys. Please comment down below. Let me know if you've played any of those games, if you're excited about any of those games coming to the Switch, or what games you're playing. Let me know if you're getting The Legend of Zelda Tears of Kingdom. Everything and anything down below in that comment section is much appreciated. You guys are amazing. Take care, everyone. See you tomorrow.